The Green Bay Packers don't rely on their stars defensively nearly as much as you might think.
You are Locked On Packers, your daily Green Bay Packers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are Locked On Packers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm Peter Bukowski, and I cover the Packers for The Leap, a newsletter I would love for you to subscribe to. Follow me on Twitter, Peter_Bukowski. Follow the podcast on Twitter, Locked On Packers. Like us on Facebook. Subscribe to the podcast, iTunes, Spotify, wherever you find podcasts, you will find Locked On Packers, the #1 Packers podcast on the internet, and the show for fans who know what happened, they want to know why and how. Thanks to everyone who makes Locked On Packers their first listen every day. We hope you like starting your day with us as much as we like starting our day with you. Today's episode brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. Football season is around the corner. Visit the FanDuel app today and start planning your futures bets now. I have said many times on this show that the Packers defense last year worked in large part because of Xavier McKinney and the safeties. That their ability to take away everything down the field was vital to the Packers' success. And I believe that to be true. But after digging into the data, what I found was it's not so much about the individual players, but where they are and how they are placed by Jeff Hafley in this defense. I went through, Pro Football Focus has this really cool functionality through PFF Ultimate that allows you to see how a team does with a player on the field versus off the field. And I went through the best players, and I'm thinking I'm going to go in and I'm going to find, okay, when the Packers pass rush, when Rashawn Gary's off the field, it falls off a cliff. I expected to go in and see that when Xavier McKinney's not out there, the coverage falls off a cliff. When Kenny Clark is not out there, when Edgerrin Cooper is, it just doesn't happen. It just doesn't happen. Even when the team didn't have Edgerrin Cooper out there, it was a really good defense. Even when Xavier McKinney wasn't out there, it was a really good defense. If you look at the EPA number, so the value generated by the Packers, Rashawn Gary, Edgerrin Cooper, Xavier McKinney, I would say pretty consensus in terms of the best players. Doesn't really move the needle for them. Evan Williams, it's a little bit. So let me just give you a perspective here. Packers were 4th defensively in EPA per play. And I've said before, they were still top 10, even if you take away turnovers. This is not turnover driven. But that's why I thought, okay, interesting. If you take X off the field, does it change? It doesn't really. The Packers were 3rd in EPA per play when Evan Williams was on the field last year. They were 8th without him. So still a top 10 defense. Now, the one player that changes that, and it is actually in the bad way, the Packers last year, when Quay Walker was not on the field, were the #1 defense by EPA per play. #1. When he played, they were 12th. Now, part of that is earlier in the season when he wasn't playing as well. He had that stretch in the middle of the season when he played very well, and then came back and played in that Eagles game, and also I thought played very well. Had the splash play, the sack in the preseason game, in the finale. I'm not saying Quay Walker is, the one player on this defense who is a negative. What I'm saying is, overall, this Packers team is the perfect example of the kind of team that proves the point. Defense is a weak link system. That it's not about how good your best players are, but how bad your worst players are. It's not about how good Rashawn Gary is. They're about the same when Rashawn Gary's off the field. It's not about how good Xavier McKinney is. They're about the same when Xavier McKinney's off the field. It's not about how good Edgerrin Cooper is. They're about the same when Cooper's off the field. It's about how bad are your bad players. When Quay Walker is on the field, they are worse than when he's off it. So he is an example of the kind of player who, okay, how bad are your worst players. But even with Quay on the field, 12th in EPA per play, that's still pretty good. That's still an above average defense. So what does this tell us? Well, it tells us that number one, much like on offense, they are built to withstand injuries. Nate Hobbs, I don't think that moves the needle for the Packers very much that he's out. Even Xavier McKinney, they have built-in backups for him. Javon Bullard is there. Now, if Evan Williams gets hurt, it starts to get thin. But any team that loses two of their best defenders at the same position, like if the Lions didn't get to play with Brian Branch or Kirby Joseph one day, guess what? I bet that defense would be tough. It would be harder to be good if that's what you lost. Two very good football players. I'm not saying Evan Williams is in the same tier with Brian Branch and Kirby Joseph, but the point is, if you lose two of your best players, it's going to make it tougher. But this Packers defense, because of the structure of it, it does not rely as much on their star players. And part of that is because this is primarily a zone coverage team. Zone coverage is about removing variance. You play more man coverage, you're going to get some really, really good outcomes, some really, really high-end outcomes, and you're going to get beat. That's just the nature of man-to-man coverage. Everybody in the NFL is good. We saw Jair Alexander, in a season where he made second-team All-Pro, get cooked a couple times by backup receivers. That's just like everyone is an elite football player that's playing in the NFL. It's just, the gradations, the shades of gray in that. It's like, Mike McCarthy used to say there are no bad football players in the NFL. If you were bad, you wouldn't be in the NFL. We're talking about, relative to NFL standards, where are you? But like in the grand scheme of things, that gap is relatively small. But in zone coverage, then it's about positioning. It's about where are you on the field? What windows are you able to take away? It's less about, okay, who is winning against another player, mano a mano, and about, okay, how well are you communicating? How much range do your players have? If you've got good athletes and good communicators, you can be a good zone defense. And that's, by and large, what the Packers have. They've got good athletes everywhere. And last year in particular, everyone played assignment sound football, and they communicated much better. They understood where they were vulnerable. You have to, as a defense, you have to, as an offense, understand how teams are going to attack you. So if you're a quarters team, you know what route concepts people are going to try and run against you. If you're a cover two team, you know what kind of route concepts people are going to run against you. And so you have to be prepared for those things, and you have to be playing disciplined within that scheme, understanding that if you do, you can still defend against the kinds of concepts that are specifically designed to put you in trouble. And the Packers last year adapted really well. That is a credit to Jeff Hafley. That he was able to say, look, you got to protect the corners a little bit, more too high, but stay in zone. You don't have to play two-man. Now, I've often said that, you look at a team like the Lions, even when they had injuries, they were able to make it work because they invited the variance. You're going to blitz more. You're going to give up some big plays, but your offense can score the points. So you can have games where you win 35-14, but the difference in the game where you win 35-31 may not be all that different. It might just be 3 plays because your guy gets beat in one game and he doesn't get beat in another game. It's a variance game. The Packers defense, and we talked about this last year, in many ways is a mirror of the offense. It is an egalitarian style of defense because anyone can play anywhere, and that's the point. That the stuff they're running is not, it's not convoluted, it's not complex. It's made to look like it is, but it's not. And that means the players can play faster, they can play more instinctively. And if they do, Lucas Van Ness last year had injuries. Kenny Clark last year had injuries. And, this comes back to the point that I was trying to make on social media the other day. Someone was like, oh, the pass rush stinks. No, it doesn't. They were 13th in pressures last year. It wasn't as good as you wanted it to be. And it wasn't good enough to be the 4 down, like we're just going to beat you with 4 kind of rush team that they wanted to be. But they were able to manufacture pressure, much like the Ravens. No one's like, oh, the Ravens, they manufacture pressure, so that's somehow bad. No. They do a really good job manufacturing pressure. Like this whole simulated pressure world that everyone wants to live in, Mike McDonald, no, their 4-man rush in Seattle is not superlative, but their defensive mind, the guy calling the shots, is. That's why it helps in Houston when you've got the horses and you've got the jockey. You've got the guys putting those guys in the right spots. You've got D'Amico Ryans. It's why last year the Vikings defense took off when they added Jonathan Grenard and Andrew Van Ginkel. This year they added Jonathan Allen and Javon Hargrave and guys that are just theoretically more mano a mano, I'm just going to beat you kind of players. It just gives you flexibility on what you can be and what you can do. And I know it breaks people's brains, but that's just the nature of this defense right now. And it's a really good place for this team to be. Now, I want to talk about more about something we started to talk about in the offseason, and the trend has only continued with the most recent addition to the Green Bay Packers, and that is the beef. Brian Gutekunst has said, bring me the beef on this offensive line. We'll talk about that next on Locked On Packers. August 26th is officially FanDuel Futures Day, a brand new holiday for football fans who live for bold predictions and preseason hunches. For 24 hours, FanDuel is giving you deals on NFL season predictions. So whether you're calling your MVP, eyeing a long shot division winner, or ready to crown your Super Bowl champ before week 1 even kicks off, this is your moment. You like the Seahawks at 5-1 to win the NFC West. You like the Broncos at around 4-1 to win the AFC West. I think that number has come down now. Hey, FanDuel is giving you a chance on what is going to be a new football holiday. Visit the FanDuel app today and start planning your future bets now, because Futures Day is one day and one day only. FanDuel, play your game. We have an important request here on Locked On Packers. We want to hear from you. We've put together a survey to learn more about our listeners and make your favorite podcasts even better. This is your chance to tell us what you like, what you don't, and answer questions about our advertising. Go to Locked On Podcasts, lockedonpodcasts.com/survey to get started. Everyone who completes a survey will be entered for a chance to win a $100 gift card from Amazon. We're giving away 10 of those bad boys. Again, that's lockedonpodcasts.com/survey. You can find the link in the show notes. And thanks for helping us out. If you go back in time travel with me for just a second, and you go back through Brian Gutekunst and Ted Thompson, neither of them had taken an offensive lineman over 320 pounds in the top 100 until Sean Ryan, 321. Then Brian Gutekunst did it again just a few years later, and just very recently with Anthony Belton. And he added Anthony Belton the same offseason. He signed Aaron Banks, who is 324 pounds. Darian Kinnard, who they just added from the Philadelphia Eagles in a trade with day 3 picks, is 6'5", 322. He is enormous. And not that long ago, it would have been obvious that someone like Kinnard, someone like Sean Ryan, someone like Anthony Belton would just not have been on the Packers menu in the draft. Or free agency is a little bit different because the Packers tend to throw out these markers once they're in the league. And it's not even like Kinnard in particular is also some freak athlete. He does not fit their athletic profile. He had a relative athletic score in the 5s, 53rd percentile athlete at tackle. No, excuse me, at guard. It was even worse at tackle. Now, he was a consensus, top 70 sort of player, went 145th. That was closer in the range that I had him. I had him as a late day 2, early day 3 player. But I went back and found my notes about him. And the first thing I say, big is the harbinger of things to come here. Kinnard is a big mauling tackle who was a very good college tackle, but doesn't have the high-end athleticism. So, but long arms 87th percentile arm length, 35 inches. That is more than big enough. 3 years of grades over 89 at Kentucky. Now, I did not love him. Interestingly, in my notes, I noted that Kingsley Enagbare drew a holding call on him and next play beat him with a bull rush. Kennard faced him at Kentucky in the SEC. So some familiarity with some players already on the Packers. But I had a follower share with me a chart here of the kinds of players that they have brought in. And there is a clear demarcating line. In 2022, the Packers brought in 3 players, 3 offensive linemen over 320. Sean Ryan, Rasheed Walker, and Caleb Jones. Caleb Jones, 6'8", almost 6'9", 370. Rasheed Walker's 324. Sean Ryan's 323. Now, they added Zach Tom in that same offseason. He's 307. In 2023, guess what they added to their offensive line? Kadeem Telfort, who's 6'7", 322. In 2024, yes, they added Jordan Morgan, who's not that big. They added Jacob Monk, who's not that big, and Travis Glover, who's not that big, though he's 6'6", 317. That's a big boy. They also added Donovan Jennings, who's 323. And then this year, this draft, 2nd and 7th round picks, 335 and 322. Both of the guys qualify here. Before that, since Brian Gutekunst had been the general manager, they hadn't taken a guy above 313 in any round of the draft. Not in 2021, not in 2020, not in 2019, not in 2018. Simon Stepanek, who didn't even play, was 313. He was the biggest guy. And if you look at the heights, they're also getting bigger. Before 2022, no one over 6'5" brought in 2022, Rasheed Walker, 6'5.5", Caleb Jones, 6'8", Kadeem Telfort, 6'7", Travis Glover, 6'6", Anthony Belton, 6'5.5". They want bigger bodies. And this fits with what we've seen Sean McVay do, what we've seen Kyle Shanahan do. Yes, you want to be able to still run your outside zones. You still want to be able to move in space. But what has happened is all of this too high coverage has made light boxes more prevalent on defense. And so what do? You punish teams for playing small. If you've got all these little offensive linemen, little being a relative term, right? Like 6'4", 300 is still a big dude in person if you saw them. But on the football field, the difference between 6'4", 300 and 6'5.5", 330 is a big one. And the difference in strength is also potentially very big. And so, yes, maybe a 220-pound linebacker might be able to run around one of those bigger guys. But when, and I pointed this out during the game on Saturday, when Anthony Belton climbs to the second level, he is going to put linebackers in the ground. And that's what this team wants to be able to do. Punish. And I mean punish. Don't just make it so that it hurts them yardage-wise. Punish. It's a mindset. You want to play light boxes against us? Oh, no. No, you don't. Here comes Anthony Belton and Sean Ryan and these big dudes. Rasheed Walker downhill to meet you at the point. Try getting off blocks then. And if your safeties are having to come from depth, now Josh Jacobs, instead of getting contacted, within 1 yard, 2 yards of the line of scrimmage, is getting contacted 4 yards. You reset the line of scrimmage. And we saw the Packers, even just in the preseason, do this a number of times. Their ability to reset the line of scrimmage is materially different than it's been for this team for a long time. And you go back, how many times during the Aaron Rodgers era, even when they had excellent offensive lines, Josh Sitton and TJ Lang and David Bakhtiari and Scott Wells or Corey Linsley, Billy Turner, those teams had the reputation of being finesse teams. And oftentimes in the postseason, they were losing to power teams, the 49ers. the 49ers again. You see a trend? I think the Packers are sick and tired of being too small. And it is exactly how you need to play now, because you can still heavy play action, go to 5-man protections. The Packers are really good at getting into 6-man protections with the running back, so that the running back can just pick up the extra guy, because with all of the simulated pressure looks, you're probably not going to be right, or your chances of being right have certainly decreased. And so now you've got a running back who can help you out with all of this. That makes your pass protection easier. That means you have to worry a little, just like a little fraction less about how good your guys are in pass protection. And when you are taking your shots down the field, it's off heavy play action. And so you're hoping you're slowing that rush down a little bit anyway. I'm excited to watch this team tote the rock this year, to run the ball this year, because they are better set up to come downhill and run these power running concepts, to move more toward duo and away from outside zone and inside zone. It's going to be fun. Now, speaking of short yardage, last year, the Packers' offense was exactly what you thought near the goal line. I know almost every fan hates shotgun out of short yardage. It's time for the Packers to hate it too. I'll tell you why next. This episode is presented by Yahoo Fantasy. The NFL season is right around the corner and you can feel the buzz. Fantasy football season is here, baby. Everyone's researching, drafting, and building their championship squads. If you haven't joined a league yet, now's the time, and it's all happening on Yahoo Fantasy. This year, I'm playing fantasy football on Yahoo, and you should be too, whether you're a first-timer or a veteran creating your millionth league. With season kickoff on September 4th, now is the time to start playing Yahoo Fantasy Football, which offers more fun ways to compete. Want more ways to play? Try the brand new Yahoo Fantasy Guillotine League mode, where the lowest scoring team gets eliminated weekly until one team is left standing. Want to play instantly with friends? Try the new Draft with Friends mode. Prefer the classics? Get your crew together and go head-to-head in a private league. No crew? No problem. Join a public league. The easiest way to play. The NFL season kicks off September 4th, so don't wait. Start your league now. Draft at yahoofantasy.com/lockedonnfl. That's yahoofantasy.com/lockedonnfl. You hate it. I know you hate it. Shotgun on 4th and 1, on 3rd and 1, on 3rd and goal. You hate it. I know you do. Here's the funny thing. In the NFL, it's different in college. I was a piece yesterday I was reading about how in college, basically do not do shotgun near the goal line. Just don't do it. In the NFL, it's kind of whatever. The NFL average success rate, okay, on goal-to-goal plays from shotgun, 32%. Bad. Don't do that. But from under center, it's not that much better, 36%. So it's not like one is so much better than the other as to encourage a team to say, we don't want to do this. Like, if your identity is to be a shotgun team, maybe the best thing for you is to be in the gun. The thing is, the Packers last year increased their shotgun usage overall. They were a shotgun team more than they had been with Jordan Love and this Packers offense. And yet, their goal-to-goal success rate under center was almost 50%. They were the second best goal-to-go offense under center in the NFL. Just a shade under 49% of their goal-to-goal plays from under center were successful. That is a huge number. A huge number. No one, by the way, from the shotgun in the NFL had a number that good. But from the shotgun, they had a success rate of 31%. They were below average from the gun in the low red zone. Now, you can't only be a goal-to-go under center team if you live in shotgun primarily. Now, you can still run all of your concepts from under center that you would run from shotgun. But the Packers have, that spinner motion, and they have some cool concepts that they do run from the gun. The difference is, if you're going to get under center, you're giving yourself the chance to run that hard play action. And again, this goes back to the point we were just making. This team can win with brute force. Give Josh Jacobs a running start, and he is going to find the end zone. And that is what the Packers learned last year when they just started to give the ball to Josh Jacobs inside the red zone. Their red zone offense exploded. It exploded for them. And it was like, okay, you give it to him on first down. He didn't get in. Okay, second down. Okay, he's in. Eventually, he was going to find the end zone. And let me just give you this. This is crazy. From week 10 through the playoffs last year, Josh Jacobs had 1, 3, 1, 3, 1, 1, 1, 1, and 1 touchdown. From week 10 on, he scored in every single game he played, and in 2 games, he scored 3 times. That's just on the ground. He was automatic last year in the low red zone. He did not have a bunch of 20, 30, even 15-yard touchdown runs. It was all 1 yard, 2 yard, 3 yard, 4 yard. It was inside the low red zone. When they used Josh Jacobs that way, it was a cheat code. It's not quite the tush push, he wasn't literally unstoppable, but he was really good. He was really good, and they can do that again. If anything, they need to find ways to weaponize that in other parts of the field. Can you, on first down, get under center after running Josh Jacobs a bunch and then go play action and hit your shot play? The Packers just didn't do that as much last year. We saw them scheme up in 2023 a bunch of low red zone winners off play action. This last year, they didn't seem to do that as much. They didn't seem to get as cute. They just said, we're going to run the ball downhill. Now, for the first 8 weeks of the season, they were still trying to be a little bit more cute. It was like if they didn't have something schemed up beautifully, they couldn't score in the low red zone. And then they just started running the ball. And even Aaron Rodgers, a quarterback who likes to sling it, has always said the best thing we can do for our offense in the red zone is run the ball effectively. Now, part of that is because it sets up your play action game. But if you get inside the 5 and you give the ball to Josh Jacobs 3 times and beyond nearly a shadow of a doubt, you're going to score at some point in that group. If you have a 50% success rate in goal-to-go situations, and you hand the ball to Josh Jacobs 3 times, that essentially, not exactly, but it nearly guarantees a touchdown. Just because of the way successful plays work. So, if you're the Packers, if you're the rest of the league, I understand you might want to stay in shotgun a little bit more. For the Packers last year, that says do not do that. Get under center and either pound the rock with Josh Jacobs or go play action over the top after teams are so scared of the bazillion touchdowns that Josh Jacobs scored last year in the low red zone. They're going to sell out to stop Josh Jacobs. That leaves you wide open with Jordan Love. And I'm telling you, remember this, they are going to get a team to sell out, and they're going to get Jordan Love on a walk-in touchdown one of these times. One of those old school, remember how often we used to see those old school naked boots where everyone was tricked? I remember Peyton Manning scored on one of those once. And I'm just sort of how does Peyton Manning, even in his prime, I was faster than him and he was scoring. I think they're going to do that once this season, at least. And it's going to be cool. All right, back tomorrow. We get you ready for cut down day here in just a matter of hours, frankly. And then the squad show is coming Wednesday night. We're going to be live Wednesday evening. I believe the time is 7:15 Central. Maybe we'll do 7:30 Central just to make it a little bit more of a rounder number. But it's going to be Wednesday night, and that's going to be throughout the season. Wednesday night, we will be live. It's me, Brandon Snide, and Jeff Jagosinski, former Packers coach, who was a blast to work with on the squad show on Saturday after the Seahawks game. We're going to be with you after on Wednesday, and then again Wednesday next week after the game. Sunday night, Let's go. Packers, Lions. Packers now favorites. 1.5 point favorites at home against the Lions. The odds makers think the Lions and the Packers are even at home. The Matthew Golden bump? Is that what we're going to do? Maybe. Follow me on all the social medias, Peter_Bukowski. Follow the podcast on the social medias. Subscribe to the podcast wherever you get podcasts. Go check us out on YouTube where you can watch us. You watch the Squad Show. That's going to be a podcast in your feed as well, so you can stay locked on Packers.